we come to the participation of peasants during the civil disobedience movement. Now it was because of the Great Depression, the rise in the price of the food articles or necessity articles, the daily necessity articles. Because of that, the common people who were mostly the peasants and workers, they were greatly suffering. They were basically poor, and because of the rise in the price, they were suffering too much. And the fall in the prices of the agricultural products, where the rate of land revenue and the taxes, they were quite high for the peasants, and they were burdened with heavy taxation and too much of loan money. And that is why they started to revolt, to take back their lands that were taken away due to the non-payment of taxes during 1929 to 31, which came to be known as Bocasto movement. Bocasto movement was launched by the farmers during 1929-31 so that they could demand to take back their land that were taken away from them due to the non-payment of taxes. And the Congress, the Workers and Peasants Party, the Congress Socialist Party, all have supported the farmers' demand of no rent, no revenue. And the important leaders during the civil disobedience movement who led the farmers were M.B. Naidu, N.G. Ranga, Swami Sahajananda Saraswati, Rahul Sankirtayan, Muzaffar Ahmad, etc. Mostly the communist leaders. And when we will discuss about the workers movement, we will see that during the before the civil disobedience movement, there was a huge action taken against the communists. The Communist Party of India was declared banned. The Meerut conspiracy case that we will discuss later on. During the civil disobedience movement, the first phase, it was a failure. Then second phase, again it was launched in the second phase. Then the British government had decided to call the Indian leaders for the round table conference in 1931 in London, where Gandhiji was not, first time Gandhiji was not included. Because of that, it was a failure. Then second round table conference, Gandhiji was included, and then the discussions were going on that the round table conferences are not required for you. The important topic during this time that had happened was the formation of the Congress Socialist Party. Now within the Congress, there was a group of leaders who were lent towards the socialist ideas. Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose and their followers, they were inclined towards the socialist ideas, and there was a group of socialist leaders. So they had decided to create a party based upon the socialist ideologies, which came to be known as Congress Socialist Party in the year 1934. The main leaders who had founded this Congress Socialist Party were Jayaprakash Narayan, Acharya Narayan Dev, and Narendra Dev, Ram Manohar Lohia, Sucheta Kriplani, etc. The aims and objectives of the Congress Socialist Party is very much important. They wanted to form a socialist government. They wanted to abolish the zamindari system, that is the permanent settlement. They wanted to they wanted the recognition of occupancy rights of the peasants. That means the land belongs to the peasants, not to the zamindar. And they demanded for the agrarian wages for the peasants. Like if the peasant was working in another person's land, the peasant was supposed to get the salary for his labor. So that was the agrarian wage, and they demanded the peasants and workers swaraj, and they also demanded to uh, waive off, that means end the agrarian debts. That means if the farmers had taken the loan, they wanted that to be abolished. So this was the the peasants have participated in the civil disobedience movement. They have actively participated, and their revolts, their participation had created the civil disobedience movement, larger one, like the non-cooperation movement. And because of the peasants movement, the entire entire corners of the countries have been involved in the freedom struggle. Next, we are going to discuss about the peasant movement during the Quit India movement. And during the Quit India movement, it was a wholehearted and spontaneous movement for the peasants' part. By that time, the peasants have already been politically conscious. Remember the establishment or the formation of the All India Kisan Sabha in 1936. The farmers in UP, Bihar, Bengal, they gave a full-fledged support to the to the Quit India movement. Then it had the Quit India movement had turned out to be an all-out revolt. Like the Indians were. They were determined to go to any extent, and it had happened due to this spontaneous and wholehearted um, participation on the peasants' part, that this movement, the Quit India movement, because the leaders were all arrested, but still the Quit India movement had reached a very powerful uh, impact on the British government, that because of this wholehearted and spontaneous participation from the peasantry, and the peasant movement's important feature during that time, that they did not go against the landlords, and they supported this time. They did not revolt against the landlords. They revolted or they protested against the British government. Previously, they used to protest against the zamindars, but this time, the Quit India movement, this time they protested against the British. And quite a few areas, this peasant revolts or the peasants' participation had become very violent. In Bengal, in Midnapur, basically, it had become very violent. We will learn about the important peasant leader of Bengal, that she was a woman. She was an old woman, about 72 years of age, Matungini Hajra or Gandhi Buri. Popularly, she was known as Gandhi Buri because She had participated in all the freedom movements launched by Gandhiji, and she followed Gandhiji extremely well, and that is why she was known as, she was a widow from a peasant family, and she wholeheartedly supported, not only supported, but actively participated in all the movements launched by Gandhiji. And during the Quit India movement, she was the main leader of the processions and leading towards the British institutes, the police stations, and she was shot dead. The police had opened fire at the procession and she was shot dead. And uh, because of this, she is remembered, because of her bravery and courage, she is remembered. Then the leaders, local leaders, Ajay Mukherjee and Satish Samanto, Sushil Dhara, they have formed the armed farmers group called Vidyut Bahini and occupied the police stations. Many a time the police stations were set to fire. In other parts of Bengal, the farmers were joined by the other sections of the society, as well as the students, and this had become a mass movement. This had uh, created a mass movement during the Quit India movement, and this has uh, uh, and it was withdrawn. The Quit India movement was withdrawn in 1944, but the peasants movement had continued. And we will see about the peasants movement. We will learn about the several peasants movements afterwards.